Hello, my name is Dr. Liam Saddington. I'm the Director of Studies for Geography here at Lucy Cavendish and a Fellow as well. So today I'm going to have a very brief chat with you about some of the research that I'm doing looking at climate change, sea level rise and low-lying island states. So within my research as a political and environmental geographer, I focus on some of the challenges that some of the most vulnerable communities face on the planet. Think of somewhere like the Maldives, Tuvalu or Kiribati, an island state that is only a couple of meters above sea level. We know, because of anthropogenic warming in the atmosphere, that sea levels are rising. But what happens if those sea levels rise to such an extent that these countries become uninhabitable or even disappear beneath the waves? My research looks at some of the geopolitics surrounding this, and thinking about the relationship between territory and sovereignty. If a country disappears because of sea level rise, can they retain membership of the United Nations? Can you still travel on the passport of a country that doesn't have any territory? In essence, what happens next? Now, one thing that's really important to stress, this is not inevitable. If we are able to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, then these communities will be able to continue in situ. Conditions will be more difficult with issues like water security and food security, but these communities will not have to go into exile. And small island states are very active internationally in trying to advocate for greater action on climate change and greater support for adaptation. Adaptation takes on a range of different forms, but for places like Tuvalu, increasingly they are turning to more dramatic forms of climate change adaptation. Tuvalu is reclaiming land from the sea. It is physically building its islands, elevating them against future sea level rise. And this is providing space for these communities to adapt to climate change and survive in a more difficult environment. It's also worth thinking about, with these islands and changing sea levels, that the future is not fixed, that actually across the globe, many of these low-lying islands are actually growing in size as sea levels rise due to changes in ocean patterns. So there is perhaps a hope that these communities will be able to stay in situ. But that isn't guaranteed, and that's going to need significant adaptation locally and significant international cooperation. Increasingly in my research, I'm turning to think about what the future means for young people, both here in the UK and in Pacific Islands. So working with pupils, educators, to think about creating new educational material around climate change, so that our young people, both here in the UK and across the world, can look forward to a more hopeful future, that feel empowered to act on issues around climate change and environmental change more broadly. In the UK, this involves working with schools in Peterborough and Stevenage on creating materials for Year 9 students so that they can think about questions of climate justice. In the Pacific, this involves working with the University of the South Pacific to create new educational materials so that young people have the tools to advocate themselves for a better future. So it's a very quick snapshot of some of the research that I'm doing at the moment, and really trying to think through what the future might mean in terms of climate change, geopolitics, and small low-lying islands.